Instagram. I think it's that time. I think it's Thursday. I think we're going to have a good time today. Look at who's next to me, Mr. Chet. Yes, I know. This has been a long time coming. And first of all, I'm deciding to wear my cap so my head is not so shiny on the screen. And second of all, I also realized that I'm wearing this shirt with a pattern and it looks like it's doing something funny with the camera. But that's the fun thing about being live. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come up. And we just appreciate everybody joining us on the show today. Good morning, Christina. It's great to see you and great to hear from you. Appreciate you joining us on Facebook. And of course, we're live on YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you could catch the replay on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, we are excited. We have a great show today. And yeah, Chet, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Excited.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming. We've been talking about getting on the show together for a while. And it's been super cool. So Sid, thank you for joining us on the show this morning on LinkedIn. And there we have Garana coming up too. Yeah, Garana. Oh, by the way, Garana, great job on that logo that you did. I'm going to be sharing it with the group today and we'll get that invoice paid right away. Thank you so much. It really turned out well. Garana is awesome. And there is Dawn Block, Realtor Royale. Dawn, thank you so much. Dawn is somebody who has inspired me in the real estate realm. She has been really amazing. I know you were on her podcast before, and she's just been an inspiration to me, and she's always encouraged me to be better. So thank you, Dawn. She is epic. And yeah, Sid, you are amazing too. So thank you. All right. Well, let's start off like we normally do. Alan Stern, of course, is on to Facebook. Thank you. Let's start off like we normally do with a beginning quote. And Chet picked one out, so we're going to leave this one up to him.
Okay. So the quote which I selected was, it's by Viktor Frankl. It says, "That which must give light must endure the burning."
I love that. Thank you, Chet. And on that note, welcome to this episode of Live Beyond Default live stream. It's your weekly dose of personal growth and the longest running live stream in the Chicagoland area. My name is Dave. I'm your host, and I'm here with
Chet from Beyond Technology.
And I'm here with Chet. And we are so grateful that you are here this morning. If your week has not been epic so far, it's time to self-reflect. Why not? Why has it not been epic so far? What are your thoughts? What are your actions? What are your words? And it's time for us to take responsibility on this Thursday, because we're going to level up our game. You're going to want to take out your notes, and we're going to take full responsibility for where we're at this week, whether it's at work or whether it's our personal life or our professional life or spiritually or financially. And we are not going to blame anybody else for where we are today. No blaming on Live Beyond Default live stream. It's all about us. We're going to kick it up a level here, and moving forward, our week is going to be epic. Hector, thanks for joining us also. And let's start off with a little bit of gratitude. You know, I did some gratitude this morning, part of my morning practice. I actually reached out to Ritesh Shah because he's got a big event coming up this weekend on Sunday, a big kickball tournament. So I reached out to him, and I encourage everybody in the chat to put up 1, 2, or 3 things that you are grateful for this morning. So I'll start off by saying I am grateful for really being honest with myself for where I'm at in my life, and recognizing that wherever I am in my life is all because of me, and nobody else is responsible for it. So I'm grateful to be aware and honest with myself where I'm at, and of course where I want to go. Chet, how about you?
So I happened to read an autobiography of Christopher Reeve recently. Right, as we all know, Christopher Reeve used to play Superman, and then he had an accident in 2000, it was 96 or 2004, and he became a quadriplegic after that. And that was such an irony, right? Because he was Superman, and then he became a quadriplegic, right? And I read that, and I realized that just the small things that we can do is so big. Just being able to walk, just being able to go out and take your dog for a walk, go out and run, just go out, get up and get coffee. There's so many people in this world who can do that. So all our troubles seem so small compared to some of the troubles that people have in this world. And so my gratitude would be that, God, thank you just for even like these small things that you've given me, a family, a nice house, good friends, an amazing community, being able to, walk. So
I love that, Chad. Thank you for that share, because I think a lot of times we all do this. We look at the big things in life, and we look at maybe what others have, and sometimes we don't recognize, like, hey, I stepped out of bed this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I can brush my teeth without having to use my foot to do it because I have hands.
Correct.
Or hey, there's I have food in the fridge, or when it gets bad or when things get tough, it's not really that bad.
Absolutely.
We still have so much going for us. So thank you for that. Yeah, let's be grateful for the little things that we have in life. And Matt Liss says the weather. Yeah, how about the weather in Chicago, right? We are, again, super blessed. I mean, we have barely any snow. I don't know what that's a sign of, okay? But we're not going to get into that. We didn't have a lot of snow this year, but it seems like summer came early.
I always say this, living in Chicago is like living with a bipolar spouse. When she's bad, she's horrible. And when she's good, she's amazing. So I think right now we're in that amazing phase. Let's enjoy it,
Oh, it's like living with a bipolar spouse. We're going to talk about Chet's comedy coming up later in the show, and we really are. Like, it's super unexpected. If you're just joining us, thank you. We are live on Instagram. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You're watching Live Beyond Default live stream, Chicago's longest running live stream. And we so appreciate you being here. Take out your notes. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on today. You're going to get a ton of nuggets. And of course, we're all growth minded. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And we're just going to make it a great hour here. And we're going to make the rest of our week great also. Thank you. So Garana says health, opportunities, and personal growth. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's something too. Like, even think about our health. So often we'll take things for granted with our health. And, sometimes it's good to recognize that we're breathing.
I've noticed this, Dave, and tell me from your personal experience, right? In your 20s, it's the money and health is here. And those two vertices kind of cross. And in your 40s, it's all about your health, and money kind of takes up, So I think I'm noticing that in my 40s is that, these things kind of start falling in perspective. You start realizing that your health, your relationships, the work that you do within your community, your impact is so much more. Like,
yes.
It's such a big, picture. I think sometimes in our 20s, we're like too focused on just one thing.
I agree.
And in our 40s is when we kind of see the big picture.
And our life ebbs and flows throughout the years.
Correct.
Right? Depending on maybe our age or depending on our mindset. So that is really, really important to think about too. Like, what would you tell yourself if you were 20 again? Right? Or what would you tell your 20-year-old self? Stand a little bit closer. Oops. What would you tell your 20-year-old self? And that was a super good point. So let's remember that, like, some of these things that we might be going for in life, they might not be what we really want. It's just that we see what others have, and we really don't know anybody else's story.
It's funny you said that. When I was in my first job in New York, it was on Wall Street.
Oh,
and there was
Wall Street.
Yeah, I was there for like 6 months and before I kind of burnt out. But in front of me was this veteran sales guy who had been doing it for 30 years, and he told me, Chet, be careful for what you wish for. And I remember he used to say that every day. And now I'm kind of getting it. Why? So we chase these mirages, like they're mirages, right? And we don't realize that they're mirages. The pot of gold is not out there. It's right where we are. And it's those little things that we do on a daily basis, micro habits, right? It's the little reading we do. It's the languages we learn every day. It's the friends that we connect with. That's the pot of gold. It's not some arbitrary goal 10 years from now, which is important, but that's not everything. So.
I could not have said that better myself, brother. I love that. The pot of gold is not in there. It's in here. That's a quote from CHET. Tweet that, social media, Sarah. Like, we are just getting nuggets left and right already. And we just started the show. I absolutely love it. Thank you. Aaron Bondi says, love Chet's sense of humor. Yeah, Chet has a sense of humor, no doubt about it. And there's just something about this guy. When you're around him, like, you feel it. He's focused, and I love it because he's got that power of the pause. He's got that sense of grounding, and there's a lot going on in his head, but he's not just spitting out random thoughts and things for the hell of it. Like, he's very particular in what he says, and that's a gift, right? Because I know sometimes I like to show up and throw up, especially in sales. I used to do that back in the day. So there's a lot to learn from this man right here. Alan Stern says, spot on. And on that note, let's just dive in, okay? Yep. Younger Chet, your family growing up, like, when did you become Chet? Where were you? How did it happen, right? We kind of knew how it happened, but you know what I'm saying. Where did it all begin for Chet? Take us back to some moments in your childhood and how you got to be here.
Absolutely. So I was born in 1979. So I'm like a late 70s kid. I was born overseas. I was born in India.
Okay.
Which at that time was actually which was a socialist country back then. I think officially it was like semi-socialist or whatever. So it was a very different kind of upbringing. Not a lot of luxury. Not a lot of it was a very simple, very kind of just meager, stuff growing up. So essentially we didn't have a lot of stuff. But what we did have, so there was like no TikTok or whatever, so all that we had was like books. I was telling my son the other day, I was telling him the concept of a library card. And he was like looking at me like in awe. He's like, I told him back in the day, we used to have like a library card.
Yeah.
In summer, like that was a thing we used to look forward to. Like, I'm going to renew my library card. And when school got over, you went to the library card, and the librarian used to look at it. And, she used to say, oh my God, this is crumpled. I need to charge you like 10 rupees. That was a currency. And then you like,
to get a new card.
Yeah. And then you'd be like, oh man. But like, that was life, like going to the library and like reading 5 books. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it was a simple life. It was a very slower life, and just a lot of people in my life, right? So that was the younger Chet. I was an avid reader. I used to also play a lot of soccer.
So you played soccer and you read a lot.
I read a lot.
Yeah, and you mentioned it was slower too.
Very slow.
And I think that's not only the time, meaning late 70s or early 80s, but also was that a product of being in India also?
It was. I mean, we had just like one TV station. Like, so it was, like I said, like a socialist country. So you had like one TV station and like one radio station. And the programs were, I think, like always like government propaganda, though we're not supposed to say it. So
yeah, I'm sure it was. Yes.
So that was life, and it's like I said, it's like when I look at the speed of everyone's life now, that like seems like a different century altogether.
Yeah. So. Well, that's interesting. And I love the fact that you were reading, like you were using the tools and the resources that you had at the time. And was there anything like when you were a kid, let's say, when did you come to America?
So I came to America when I was 20. But I had an interesting episode before that, which was when I was 16. I went to Australia as an exchange student.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was insane because I had actually gone for a hiking trip with my friends. I come back home. My father says you have to go and give an interview. It was with Rotary International, and I gave the interview and I passed it. And a month later, I was on a plane to Australia, right? Now, nothing could be more scarier for you to go to a country where their accent is incomprehensible in the senior year of school. Like all the cliques were there, all the, all the little groups were there. And then at age 16, I had to go and break into those, which I did. And 1 year later, I was like one of the coolest guys in school. And so at age 16, I go there as an exchange student. And then I come back. And that 1 year has taught me such incredible survival skills that I started my first business at the age of 18. I used to sell mattresses at age 18.
And that was in India?
That was in India.
That was in India. Okay, is when you went back.
Yeah.
Selling mattresses at the age of 18. What were you doing? I'm trying to think of what I was doing at 18. Like selling mattresses. So you were already on that entrepreneurial journey.
I was. And it was a success. I did it for 3 years. So I used to sell mattresses. I was a DJ. So Alan Stern, I was a DJ as well.
That's why a DJ.
We probably get along so well.
Yeah.
And I used to do theater and I used to go to college. So I had like a busy schedule.
Yeah.
Which I think is a success. Someone said, right, like the secret to happiness is having a full schedule. And I believe in that.
I like that one too. The secret of happiness is having a full schedule. I love that one. Okay, so then you're selling mattresses and you come here when you're 20.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to come here?
No, my father yanks me out of there.
Okay, so you're doing great in India.
I'm in the last year of college.
Okay, and you're not in any mood to leave?
No.
Like everything's going well?
Yeah. Okay. And then my father just yanks me and says, come here. Because you're coming to America, right? No one's going to give up on that, right? America is, and personally, I believe will always be the shining city on the hill.
Yeah.
And so when you get an opportunity, you take that. And so at 20, I came here and I landed in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit from there. So you land here in Jersey. Are you with your whole family or just your dad?
I'm with my whole family.
You're with your whole family. Okay. So now you have these skills in India, okay, that you're learning. You're already cultivating them at an age. You're not just sitting around smoking pot, watching Netflix, okay? You're actually doing things at the age 18, 19, 20. Yeah. You come here at 20. Now, how does it feel? What are you doing? Where do you start?
Well, I still remember when I landed at Newark, New Jersey, and I came out of the airport. And I believe in intuition. And something just felt like home. And I always feel that. Even when I go overseas and I come back at O'Hare Airport, and the moment you land, something within you feels that you've come home. I don't know why. I still feel that. So I landed in New Jersey and I felt I was home for some reason. But that was the good news. The bad news was none of my credits from all my years in college got transferred. So I had to do like 4 years of undergrad all over again.
So you had to start over?
Again, yeah. So I finished my undergrad at age 25.
Okay. And that's because you had to start over?
Again.
And what was college like here compared to back in India?
Well, I had some amazing, teachers. So I did 2 years in New Jersey, and then I transferred to Indiana University. So yeah, I was talking to Lisa Gilbert from the SBA.
Yeah, Lisa Gilbert.
Yeah, she's from IU, and we kind of, I think, probably graduated around the same time. So it was amazing. I didn't get into the business school at IU.
You didn't?
I did not.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I could not. But I ended up managing a restaurant at that time. So I think God works in weird ways. And I managed that restaurant for 2 years. And then when I graduated, I started my own business because I already knew how to run a business.
We're talking a lot about business. You're focused. And maybe it was a gift that you had to restart over in college again, because now you're learning more skills. College and those years can also bring a lot of social pressures and social anxiety.
Yep.
What's it like leaving your country where you're successful, coming to a new country? Now you're in this college situation.
Yep.
Maybe you do or you don't look like most of the people in the college. How is it socially for you?
It's intimidating for sure, right?
Intimidating.
You're always the outsider looking inside, which is good for your ambition because that creates an insane ambition within you, right? You want to be an insider. You want to be upwardly mobile. So, yeah.
So you're saying that you used that as actually
A fuel.
a fuel and a motivator and an encouragement because you felt like the outsider.
Yep.
You actually use that. Now, was there this longing to assimilate? Were you trying to assimilate into American culture, or was it, oh, I'm going to hang out with the Indian crowd? Like, how did that look?
Honestly, this is what I feel. And sometimes this is kind of a loaded question because the climate that we are in, right? The times that we are in. But
we ask loaded questions here, okay? And we don't. Just one thing I gotta say, if I may say, I'm not cutting you off because I know you're on a roll here, right? It's like I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and I said I'm really tired of small talk. Like it's draining, it's annoying, and it's like, don't you have something better to say? There's a time and a place for small talk, a little bit of this and that, but it's just getting to be too much. So if you know me and you're at a networking event or somewhere else, you'll know like I instantly just dive in right away because I want to talk about things that actually have meaning to it. So yes, Chet, I asked a loaded question on purpose. So yeah, were you trying to assimilate into this culture, or was it more like, hey, I'm from India, I'm going to do my thing, I'm going to hang out with an Indian crowd instead? Like, how did that all go?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that America has done really well, right, besides creating these pathways of upward mobility, right? So I think America has created like these amazing pathways of upward mobility, right? So for example, if you're 6'5" and live in the Bronx, there's not so many opportunities for you, but basketball is an opportunity, and you can take that and go to the highest levels of society, right? If you're an Indian guy who's come here, doesn't speak English fluently, but there is technology and you can know how to code, and that's going to take you to the highest levels of society. So I think one of the things that America has done really well is it has created these pathways of upward mobility that you can take those and go to the highest strata of society, right? I think the second thing that America has done really well is the problem here is not about whether or not you'll assimilate. It's how fast you will assimilate, right? I see that with my kids. I'm like, because I'm trying to teach them a little things about my culture so that something remains in them, right?
Right.
Because they're like completely Americanized.
They're completely Americanized. Yeah.
It's the same thing which happened to me when I got here.
Yeah.
My parents used to say, have something, retain something of your native culture, right? Because on Sunday, on Sunday evenings, I used to like be listening to music and doing my laundry, and my father would come and tell me, why don't you listen to Indian music? And Eminem was the rage back then. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to listen to Eminem. So America like embraces you, and makes you one of their own, and that's the beauty. So I don't know if I've answered.
It's not about answering, it's about the questions, right? And we're super diving deep here. If you're just joining us, we are on Live Beyond Default live stream, episode number 67. I'm here with Chet. We're diving in deep. Chet just came to America. Well, not just today, but we're on the storyline of Chet's life. And we were talking about assimilation. And I love what you said about that America creates these pathways, and there's these pathways for us, and we can choose, we can take responsibility to go down a path or to not go down a path. You said that your kids very Americanized.
Oh yeah.
And is there any culture, any Indian culture left in them, or are you wanting to like give them some more culture?
There's definitely Bollywood left in them, so
there's Bollywood.
They watch a lot of Bollywood.
But
I like it. I like the fact that they can live, have these two aspects to their personality which are not in conflict with each other, right? The American part of their personality and the Indian part of their personality, and these two parts are not in conflict. They're actually in sync. Because America's, if you ask me personally, extremely inclusive and extremely receptive to a lot of things. So, and they've definitely been they like that they can listen to rap music and Bollywood music at the same time and be comfortable and enjoy both. So.
So when you say that America is very inclusive,
Mhm.
that's interesting because why do I hear so much that America's not very inclusive?
I think
And that's a
it's
big question too, right? Like, and I'm not throwing that on you, I'm throwing it on both of us. Like, here I'm hearing it from you that it's very inclusive. Here, my mom came to America on a boat back in the day, which she was born in an internment camp in West Germany because Hitler was blazing through Poland at the time. Love you, Mom. So she had to get out of Poland. You could not be in Poland at that time or you would be gone. Um, and I'm not saying by any means that America's perfect or anywhere is perfect because, oh, absolutely, we have so much to go. But hearing you say that, like, America is so inclusive, weren't there any times that you felt like you were held back because you were an immigrant or because you weren't a white male?
Well, I think it's everyone's own experiences. Firstly,
Okay.
so a lot of what is surfacing here is based on my own experiences. I always feel that America is a work in progress, and that's the best part. I think America is one country which says that we're not perfect and we're a work in progress, and then it has those conversations around how we can continue on that path. A lot of countries don't have that. A lot of countries, their official motto, their official credo is that we are perfect and no one's going to challenge that.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of America is that America says, no, we're not perfect, but we're going to try to get there one step at a time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I appreciate you saying it because it makes me think a lot of times, like if I'm struggling with something personally or professionally, it makes me think of those who in this country, in such an inclusive, as you say, country,
yep.
um, maybe didn't get based on their experience that
Right.
inclusivity
Correct.
that maybe some of us did or that you did.
Right.
And it makes me think of them like, oh my gosh, like think of what others went through here in the place that's supposed to be open arms.
Mhm.
And maybe they didn't go through the same experience and they went through really hard experiences, whether they were born here or not.
Yep. Yep.
And sometimes even now you see it going the other way,
Yep.
right? Because there was so much whether it's racism or sexism
Yep.
or whatever ism there was, right? There might have been a lot of it going on, but you also see like a little tend to like start to swing back the other way.
Mhm.
And maybe now it's like, okay, well, we're starting to do the same things to the people that maybe did it before, but why are we doing that? Because we didn't want it done to us. That's a lot, right? I don't even know what I just said.
No,
Did it make sense?
Again, like I said, all of this like individually makes for friction.
Yep.
But if you kind of take a 35,000-foot view about it and you come to terms with the fact that we are not a perfect nation, we are a work in progress, then all of these things kind of make sense. Because, and I had a chance to attend that beautiful lecture given by Scotty Tillema, right? And he mentioned that everyone wears a shirt, right? And their shirt says something. So sometimes a lot of the friction comes from a shirt which says that I'm in pain, right? I'm scared. So if you read that shirt and if you can recognize where those emotions are coming from, a lot of times you can empathize with that person. I feel empathy is the beginning of conversation. It doesn't come at the end of a conversation. It's the start of a conversation because it puts you in a mindset to actually listen to the other person. And as long as we keep talking and we keep listening, I think we'll always be in the right direction.
Empathy is the beginning of a conversation, not the end of the conversation. And thank you for that shout out to Scotty Tillema, who just came home from the hospital. We are super grateful, and our thoughts and our prayers are sent to you, Scotty, every day. We're so glad that you are home. And how powerful was his presentation at Break the Mold with the shirts? Absolutely. And they just kept going and going and going. And it was like, when are they going to stop?
Absolutely. I loved it.
That was like, I think that was such a defining moment for so many people in their lives. Because not only are we wearing these shirts that have a challenge on them, but there's shirts in our closets that we're not wearing that we might put on tomorrow or that we might put on the next day. That's a challenge for us. A lot of time, My shirt says alone.
Yeah.
And you would think maybe my shirt wouldn't say that, because you see me out, you see me around people. Oh, Dave, Mr. Extrovert. And it's like, my shirt actually says alone a lot of times.
Absolutely.
So like you said, it's that empathy. I absolutely love that.
Mine says, paranoid, fear of being judged. Because like I said, I was always the outsider looking inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I had to break into these cliques all my life. And so it's always this thing where I will say something so stupid that I'll be like the loser in the classroom, right? I'll be like the outcast. So, I just completely agree with you. Everyone's shirt says something. And if you can somehow recognize what it says, you've just created a connection with that person, which is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get on to a little bit to the dad side of you. How's it being a dad with these kids that are now super Americanized?
It's awesome. It's awesome. So the daughter, she's 15. The son, he's 12.
Oh, great ages.
Yeah, that's why I have the receding hairline now. I think it's all gonna be gone in like the next 5 years. Right? It's just amazing. I'm relishing every moment because I know that there's soon going to be the daughter's going off to college, and the son will go off to college as well. So like I'm in that moment where I'm like relishing all the conversations with them.
I appreciate you saying that, because so many times, whether it's kids or for me, it could be my parents or it could be my niece and nephew. Like they grow up fast, and these times just go away so quickly. And are we present? Are we listening? Are we actually there for them? Or are we paying attention to our Instagram feed? Love that you said that. Ranka says the beauty of being multicultural. Yes, Ranka. Also, okay. So what is CHET? What do you feel is like your full expression of sharing your gifts? So like you have an entrepreneurial journey, right? You've worked for yourself a lot.
Yeah, 17 years.
You've also worked for others.
Yes.
At times.
Yep.
And what is it that you learned in that area, or where's your zone of genius, and what's really Chet fully expressing himself in the entrepreneurial world?
Sure. So one of the first things I learned is that everything they taught you at business school, or they taught us in business school, or the career placement office at school was BS, right? You don't start here and end up here, right?
Yeah. You
start here, then maybe you go down, then you have like a decent 2-3 year run, then you kind of plateau, then maybe you have a little bit of so it's the journey from where you're right now to where you want to be is not like a straight line. Right? It's like this unpredictable, you do get there, but it's a lot of valley and peaks.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess, and I wish someone would have told that to my 25-year-old self. That it's never going to be like the straight smooth curves, the smooth slope from here to there.
It's not smooth.
It's not.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because when I got into real estate 3 years ago, it was going like this and going like this. And then it was like the 2 years after that, we're like, I'm like, boom, crash, rough, hard, right? and I love it. I embrace it. It's that struggle. So tell us more about that. You've got your entrepreneurial journey. You've worked for yourself. You've worked for others. What is Chet fully expressing? How are you fully expressing your gifts? What's your zone of genius in the business world?
My zone of genius in the business world is, I've helped a lot of startups scale. I've helped a lot of agencies scale. I've helped a lot of small businesses scale. So my zone of genius is having this front row seat, front seat in watching amazing businesses grow. And it's such an awesome journey, right? Someone comes to you with an idea, right? You help them create a product, and 10 years later they're in Florida, a multimillionaire, living their life dreams. I've been one of those people who've helped them get there. It's the best feeling in the world.
I love that. Do you ever get jealous of any of those people?
I don't. No.
Like you don't ever wish that maybe you were that you were them, or that you did something like they did, started questioning what you've done maybe?
I think you only get jealous when you only look at one thing, So usually we get jealous because we look at wealth, right? But you never realize that person has had mental health issues. Do you want those mental health issues? That person doesn't have any kids, that he had one divorce when, because he was spending so much time in the office that he had like a divorce, he had a failed relationship. So I think, if we only look at one vector of life, wealth, then sure, being jealous of someone makes sense. But if you look at the entire mosaic, you have been gifted in a few areas, that person has been gifted in a few areas, and it's the mosaic, right, which matters. So
it's the mosaic which matters. Chet's dropping nugs left and right here. You do have a piece of paper. You're taking notes, right? You're coming back to watch this again. Like, it's one thing after another. You know what this reminds me of, Chet?
Sadhguru.
Yes, Sadhguru. Yes, but that's a good one too. You know what it reminds me of is it reminds me of The Alchemist.
Yes.
That is, The Alchemist is 51% of the reason why I left my B2B sales career, which I was making a ton of cash in, but I wasn't fulfilled. I was that little boy going through the desert trying to find his purpose. So when you're sharing these things, it's like you're sharing a fable and how you say it, but then there's like a nugget in like every chapter or every piece of what you're talking about. There's a nugget. And just while I was sitting there listening to, I'm like, it's like I'm reading The Alchemist. So thank you. Like, that really means a lot to me. So, okay, you're not jealous of other people's success. It's a mosaic. We tend to get jealous maybe at something that we think we lack. So if we see somebody that has a nice car, we get jealous of that, but we don't know what it took to get that nice car or what they're going through. We might be a woman and see another woman with a certain type of man that looks a certain way. Correct. We might get jealous of that, but we don't know what they went through. And remember, like, being an entrepreneur is not for everybody.
No.
Like, everybody thinks like, oh yeah, I want to start a business and be an entrepreneur. Well, when I was talking with Alan Stern yesterday, we had a conversation and he said something really profound. He said, the cool thing is we choose to work 70 to 80 hours a week so we don't have to work 40 hours a week. And it's such an interesting,
very true.
We're pulling that rope to try to get to that next level. It's like a tug of war. We're pulling that rope and there's shards of glass on that rope and it hurts, especially in the beginning. Like, getting that train moving is so hard and complicated. So you've encouraged and led and worked with companies and gotten them to grow.
Absolutely.
And gotten them to scale.
It's like trekking in the Himalayas, right? You have all these mountain peaks.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the entrepreneurial journey is like for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? You go to one peak, right? You stay there, you look at the view, but you're wired in such a way that you're already planning how to go to the next peak. And what I have just realized at this point is that the beauty is not just in the peaks, it's also in the mountainsides, right? So you have to plan for the peak, but you also have to take in the view when you're climbing up the mountainside. But know that there is no final peak, right? You have one ambition, one goalpost. So you achieve that peak, you stay there, you look at the view, but after that, you start planning for the next one, right?
Yep.
Because the thrill is in the chase, the thrill is in the climb. And I think that kind of alludes back to what Alan said, right? It's the chase, it's the climb which gets all these dopamine, the neurotransmitters within us going on, right? So all of us think that 10 years from now, my life will be perfect, blah, 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 blah. But that's not going to happen.
No.
10 years from now, you will probably get where you want to go. But once you're there, you're going to start planning your next move. And that's how it should be, right? Because in business, there is no status quo. There's either up or you go down. That's the competitive nature of business now. So I'm sorry.
Why would you? We don't say sorry on the show. You keep going. There's no sorries with anything. You said a lot there. Those were nuggets left and right. Again, do we have our notebooks out? Because we're learning a ton here. And that's what it's all about on Live Beyond Default Livestream, your weekly dose of personal growth. Chet, it's just awesome what you're sharing here. Yeah, peaks and valleys. It's enjoying that grind. It's enjoying, you're getting the dopamine hit, learning to get the dopamine hit from the struggle. Right. I notice right now, like being in my entrepreneurial journey and building up my real estate business, like I'm alone a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's not HGTV.
No.
Stop with the HGTV.
No.
That's not what it is. It's not, oh, fix and flip with a hammer. If you see the houses I walk through, it gives me nightmares when I see some of the things that I walk through, right? Or when I'm working with families, even in beautiful homes, like there are situations where there's a lot of emotion and it's really tough and it's that struggle. And then I go back and I'm alone and I'm figuring this stuff out by myself. So I appreciate that. Yes, we have different stages of where we're going, but once we get to that goal that we think that we're at, we've already moved the bar. It's not that. It's like, oh, this is it. Cool. I did my first 100. I made my first 100,000. I made my first 500,000. Yay. Now what's next? It's like, that's how it works. It's not as exciting as you think. So being able to embrace that journey.
And I think the final point there is that that's how you get enlightened, right? Because that's the final destination.
Yeah.
So all of these are actually like footsteps, small milestones on the way to enlightenment, which is why I think the spiritual and the material are not in conflict with each other. They're the same path. So you go from these mountains till you actually come to the place where you know yourself, and that's enlightenment.
I can't wait to go back and watch this. This is awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to do a little shift here, and we're going to get into a little bit of diversity. We're going to get a little bit into equity and inclusion and why I think, well, it's not what I think, but I do think that diversity, equity, inclusion in so many companies is really just being done because they have to do it. And I feel like it's not coming from a genuine place so many times. In fact, I've done 4 DEI events with the SBA, had big panels across the country, had speakers come in locally that were super controversial that a lot of people didn't like. But it's funny because I had somebody on LinkedIn who was claimed to be this DEI guy. And he said, well, I don't know what I can do for you, Dave. And I said, well, he said it in my DMs. I said, I was just connecting with you because you're friends with somebody else. You seemed like you were cool. I'm not asking you to do anything for me. And oh, by the way, on the DEI front, I've done 4 DEI events. So I'm interested in DEI as a white male. Yes, believe it or not. And Chet's going to share with us why diversity is so important and not just on the outside, but kind of rubbed me. You could see it rubbed me a little the wrong way when he said that. And it was kind of like, hey man, sorry, I'm not brown like you, but I could still be into DEI. And like, you're judging me on my profile and because I'm a realtor and who I look like. But at the same time, it's like, you're doing the same thing that you don't want people to do to you. So I kind of like called him out on that. Right. And he kind of stepped back a little bit.
So I have an interesting take on the whole,
thanks for listening to that.
No,
because I was like, I wanted to vent that out because I was like, oh, it just bothered me when it happened, right?
Absolutely. No. So my take on the whole diversity, equity, inclusion thing is what is diversity, right? And for me, diversity is your experiential arc, right? It's the breadth and the depth of your experiences, right? So, for example, if you have 2 people who do not look like each other, but have probably been through the same life experiences, you're not going to get diversity there. But if you have 2 folks who have, who probably look like each other, but have had different life experiences, then that's diversity, right? For example, someone who grew up in a private school in Manhattan and someone who grew up in Appalachian, Kentucky are going to have very different life experiences, though they might look the same. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So my point is that when we talk about diversity, right, we should talk about what kind of life experiences they have had.
Okay.
Right? So here's the thing. What you mentioned earlier, that it's called tokenism, right?
Tokenism. What's that?
Tokenism is when, you have 6 people who think, walk, and talk the same, look the same, and then they get one outsider on their board and then click a nice photo and say, look, we are diverse.
Oh,
right. And
yeah, tokenism. Okay.
Tokenism, right?
Yeah.
And that person is just like a rubber stamp. He just goes with whatever the other 6 say, and that's just to kind of, that's a PR thing.
Yes.
Right? But if you get someone who kind of has all these, like I said, the length or the breadth and the depth of the experiences.
Okay.
Right? So when I say the breadth of experiences, it's it's someone who's, let's say, traveled the world,
okay,
who's who has had a lot of different career changes, blah 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 blah, that kind of stuff, but who also has the intensity of the experiences. So someone who's lived on the other side of the tracks, for example.
The other side of the tracks, yes.
When you get that person in the conversation and you actually listen to what that person has to say, I think that's diversity. So I think diversity actually comes back to active listening, whether you can actually listen to someone whose life experiences are different from yours. And that's actually what we're trying to do with the Diversity Alliance, have these conversations with everyone and actually listen to what they have to say. Because a lot of times I think we just don't listen, we just take a pause when the other person is listening because we are trying to think what we can say after that.
What we're going to say next. Yeah. We're all guilty of that.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that definition and how you described diversity there. That is really great. It makes me think. So Chet is one of the founders of the Diversity Alliance group, correct?
Yep.
And that is through the Schaumburg Business Association. And it's open to everybody. There's great speakers. The networking is always awesome. And panels, we just learn a lot from there. I remember when you had your 1-year anniversary.
Yep.
And I remember the MC being really good looking and just a great speaker. Oh, that would happen.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
But I had to do that. But I remember when Brandon asked me, he said, do you want to MC the event? And I said, I would love to. Sure. But is it okay? He goes, well, wait, hold on a second. Let me ask the group.
Yep.
And he got back to me like right away.
Yep.
So he must have asked you all, and you guys said yes right away. And I was like, oh, okay. I get to MC the event. I get to introduce the panel and talk with them. And when I was up there, it's like the art of public speaking. All of a sudden, I turned it into a game show. But I did my best to keep it serious, but a little bit funny, just to kind of balance like an 80-20, serious and funny. And I remember before I got up there, somebody said at the table that I was sitting at, they said, oh, that's interesting. They picked the middle-aged white guy to be the MC. Somebody said to me. And again, I'm looking, I'm like, come on. You're saying that to me right before I get up there.
But that's a very interesting point you raised, right? So
it's like, come on.
Here is an issue that I face a lot of times with the whole diversity thing is that, what we think of someone else,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
We assume that's his primary identity. Right. When I look at you, if I see a white male, I'm assuming that that's your primary identity.
Okay.
Whereas for you, your primary identity actually might be that you're a realtor or that a yoga person, or so here, what we think someone else is and what that person thinks he is could be two very different things. And so we force our concepts on that person, right? And I think that's where the injustice is. Like if someone talks to me and just says, oh, you're like this guy who came here from India, he's an immigrant, but that's not my primary identity, right? My primary identity is I'm a father, I'm a poet, I write comedy. So I have different identities that I think are my primary identity, right? And you can only know the primary identity of another person when you have had a conversation with him.
And not prejudging him.
Not prejudging them.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing what you just said there. Yeah. And prejudging, right? Because I could prejudge you easily and be like, oh, he's a tech guy. Oh, Indian. Oh, there's a million things. Right. Or hundreds of things that I can prejudge you on. So what has been your experience creating or being a co-creator of the Diversity Alliance group? And what have you seen now that we're almost 2 years in?
Yeah.
What have you seen within that? Like what's the growth that you've seen? And maybe has there been a surprise along the way? Maybe something that happened that you never would have thought would happen?
I think, there's a lot of energy to the group and we're seeing that in the attendance, right? There's so many people who want to come. I think
love it.
Yeah. For me, the aha moment was that everyone's struggling.
Yeah.
All the conversations you have with everyone, and everyone is struggling, everyone is hustling, everyone has self-doubt, everyone has the imposter syndrome, everyone is burnt out, so everyone is kind of, you know tries to put on a facade of, everyone's out there, we try to put forward our best self, but often behind that best self is someone who's hustling, who's struggling, who's has all these self-doubts in their mind. And to me, that's awesome when you connect with the authentic self in someone else, connects with the authentic self within you. That creates a lifelong connection, I feel. And for me, within the Diversity Alliance, it's been those connections, those authentic one-to-one connections that have been like the aha moments.
Yeah. This is an aha moment for me right here. This reminds me of like why I'm actually doing this. This reminds me of why we do this live. We had that little conversation beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm like, Chet, there's not much technology here. There's not much. You can't see what's going on here, right? But there's not much technology. We've got one mic. We got a couple cameras set up in that. Like, not a big deal. But it's that aspect of just going on live and recognizing like, and then we just drop in deep. And,
right.
And I really admire and appreciate your willingness to go deep and really share your opinion authentically on diversity, on what that means to you, on your entrepreneurial journey, and the assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
Assimilation part was great too. I just absolutely love that. So within diversity and who you are within yourself, you brought up something like poetry and comedy. So tell me a little bit about your comedy and about your public speaking, because I know you are an aficionado of public speaking.
Right.
So tell me about that. And comedy, like, what's up with that? Where'd that come from?
The comedy comes from the pain. The poetry comes from the pain. It's from the hustle. It's from the struggle, right? That's where the comedy and the poetry come from.
Yeah.
My father is a writer, right? And
he is.
He is.
Okay.
He writes in our native language, but he's written like a lot of stuff. And one of the nuggets of wisdom he gave me when I was 25 is that no matter what, read for half an hour every day in your life. Okay? And
that's it.
Write a couple of lines every day, right? No matter how tired you are, just write something, put pen and paper together and write something. So I did. And so I've written a lot of poetry. I've actually written 10 one-act plays. I've written 3 novels. And the comedy, I just did it because, I just wanted to see how good I was at an open mic. But where it comes from is actually, I think for all comics or everyone who has a creative bent, I think beneath it is some amount of anguish, some anxiety, some lament, some struggles, and that's where all of it comes from. So.
I listen to a lot of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love and admire comedians so much.
Uh-huh.
And I believe a lot of it comes from what you're saying,
right.
that there is a lot of underlying pain. There is a lot of grit and grind and maybe just confusion. And that's a way of embracing it. Is it? What is it?
I think most comedians were always the outsiders who are looking inside. So at least for me, when I went to Australia or when I went to IU here, the way to kind of make myself cool was through comedy, and a lot of times self-deprecating comedy, right? So it's a shield, it's an armor that protects you, right? You're in a tense social situation and you say something like which is like a self-deprecating joke.
Yes.
And people's guards are down and you're one of the group. So
I wonder if that's why I love public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
You just made me realize something. Like, I wonder if it's because of like there's this pain and struggle before it.
Mm-hmm.
It's constant, but then even leading up to it, like, how am I going to make it good? How am I going to make it about the audience? Get out of your head. How are we going to be the best that we can? So somebody gets takeaways and we're not just influencing, but we're encouraging others to be their best selves. Like, I wonder if that's why I embrace public speaking so much. I wonder if it's like, there's a fuel from my struggle and my pain for me to get up there. Like even this show, you said to me, Chet said earlier, he's like, oh, this is kind of just another form of public speaking, except you're doing it on live camera twice a month. And I'm thinking, wow, I never thought about that. I wonder if it's like my pain and struggle that kind of fuels it to like keep going with this. So thank you.
But that's the thing. Like, how many lives have you touched because of that, right? How many lamps have you lit? Like, I know I took that micro habits thing from you, and it's changed my life. So it's all these lamps that you're lighting along the way.
Thanks for saying that. You're lighting the lamps, chat. You are lighting the lamps. Like, there's a bunch of lamps on right now. It's amazing what's going on here. Well, we've almost been on for an hour. We're going to drop a couple more questions in here, share a little bit more. We do appreciate you joining us on episode 67 of Live Beyond Default live stream. It's Chicagoland's longest running live stream. And of course, you can check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for the replay. So you talked a little bit about comedy, public speaking. Who's your hero?
I have 3.
Okay, so 3 heroes.
2 is my parents, so my mom and dad. And the third one, actually, the one that I'm kind of... So I've had many heroes during my lifetime. Like, it's like, so the one that I'm kind of looking up to right now is Frederick Douglass. So I'm reading a lot of his speeches.
Frederick Douglass.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you choose him? How did you run across him? Because
he used his erudition as a way for upward mobility.
Okay.
As a way to become that person who lights a lamp, right? He used learning, he used books, he used all of that to kind of make his way up in society and then be someone who lights all these lamps. So that's why.
I love it. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So what would you say is your biggest challenge right now? Like, what would you like to up-level in your life?
I have a very strong inner critic. Right?
What's that inner critic say throughout the week?
You're not good enough. You can't do this. Everyone's judging you very harshly. You're gonna fail at this. It's just like a constant thing in my mind, and it's just learning to kind of that guy's always gonna talk. It's just learning to not listen to that person and still go ahead and do the things that I'm supposed to do or I want to do. So.
Do you think that inner critic maybe came from somewhere, like a teacher or a sibling or something when you were growing up? Did somebody tell you weren't good enough, or was it like a group of people? Where do you think that came from? And we're not blaming anybody at all, right? That's for sure. We take full responsibility of what's going on in our lives. But where do you think that came from?
It's a protective mechanism, right? It's your body's, your mind's protective mechanism to keep you out of danger. It's the most primal survival instinct that we inherited from our DNA back when we were in the savannah, right?
Yeah, the savannah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is what got us here, right? As Neanderthal and as man slowly started, and woman, okay, woman and man got us here. It's funny how what got us to this point is not going to get us moving forward.
Correct.
It's actually holding us back.
Holding us back.
And it's recognizing that, oh, Chet, you've got that inner critic, huh? So 1 year, go on.
No, so
you're going to say something. Go on.
It ties in with the whole diversity thing, right? Like, 500 years back, all of us have this friend or foe setting in our brains, right? To kind of take these snap judgments, whether this person's a friend or a foe, right? Because that was related to our survival 500 years back.
Yes.
In today's society, that actually is what makes us stereotype another person and kind of, kind of not have these conversations, because he is he could be the biggest asset to our business. But before he's walked in, we've already prejudged him and said that this person is so-and-so.
Yeah.
So all these mechanisms that were in our head, which ensured our survival 500 years back, today kind of are hindrances to our progress. So I completely agree with you.
So 1 year from now, when we're standing here on this live stream again, May 2nd, 2025, what are we celebrating for Chet 1 year from now?
personally, I want to take my business to the next level.
Okay. What's that look like?
So I, currently it's me and, so I have like three, four full-time employees and a couple of part-time employees. And I want to scale it up where I have like about 10, 15 full-time employees and, have like a really nice setup and, nice plush office with maybe like a ping pong table, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, so I
the ping pong table. I like that. So you want to set up some systems.
Yeah.
Build up some more people.
Yes.
Maybe have the work environment being a little bit more nurturing.
Yes.
And inviting for the people that you're all collaborating and working with.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that. You're big on your business, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think 45 to 55 is when, you kind of hit your stride in the business world.
Yeah.
The 25-year-old billionaire is an extreme outlier, honestly.
Yeah. And we don't think it is. And that's what's funny about it is I was just on with my buddy a couple days ago who's 24 and he's like, yeah, 5 million by 28. Like 5 million. And he's doing great. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the pressure on that. Yeah. But that's just what we see so much, whether it's on social media or somebody driving by in a car. It's like, oh my gosh, it always used to be like the middle-aged white dude in a Corvette, right? And now it's like a 25-year-old brown dude in a McLaren, right? It's like, it's really changed.
But it's we don't realize how much of an outlier that is, right? Like I have worked with startups where I've counseled 27, 28-year-olds who are depressed.
Yeah.
Because they're not running unicorns and they're not billionaires. I'm like, man, that's completely a false stereotype that has been fed by the media, unfortunately. Yep. Most people hit their stride in business in their mid-40s because by then you've been through enough life experiences, you've built those social connections, and frankly, you've mastered your craft much better than what you've mastered, where you are at 25. So I think 45 to 45 is when you have that quantum leap in your career most often.
Thanks for reminding me of that, because sometimes I wonder like why I didn't get on my entrepreneurial journey earlier. And what you just said there just reminded me like it was the right time for me to do it.
Right.
When I did it because of my experience, because of my self-reflection. That was really good for me to hear and for all of us to hear. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. You want to close out with anything else?
No, I just, Dave, you've been one of my biggest supporters.
I have?
You absolutely have. I've struggled with networking, because of, the inner critic, but you and there's a couple of others, and I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Michelle. I think she's here.
Dr. Michelle is on for sure.
I know Raghu Sundara is one of those. Brandon Kark, he's definitely. So there've been, and forgive me if I'm missing out on any names, but there've been a lot of people who've really they've been big supporters. Alan Stern, he's here.
Yeah, Alan Stern.
Did I miss anyone? But Don, Gorana, a lot of the folks who are on here today, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think that great products, great communities, anything great always happens because of great teams. And, we have a great team here. So
thank you.
Ranka, yes, Ranka, absolutely. I love Ranka. She's oh my God. I see her at an event and she just makes my day. So a very, very nice and pleasant person too. Yeah. Thank you, Ranka. I hope.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all the gratitude with everybody. And thank you everybody for all the comments, watching the show live, or if you're watching the replay, we so appreciate you. Again, it's Live Beyond Default live stream, your weekly dose of personal growth, episode number 67. I'm here with CHET TAMBE, and it's just been a wonderful experience. We have so many nuggets. Go back and watch the replay. Share this with others. It's been a great learning experience, not just meeting CHET in general over the last few years and being around him, but even right here today, I just learned so much about myself, about others, but most importantly, I've been inspired by this man here and what he's done, and just his perspective on life is such a feeling that it's light and it's open and it's just full of opportunity. And yeah, it's going to suck sometimes, but like you learn to embrace that struggle and recognize like that's where the dopamine, that's where the fun comes from. It's not the end goal. It's the journey, it's the progress. And a lot of times it's the pain that we go through that really brings out our gifts. Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everybody. And of course, till next time, make it a great week. We'll see you soon. Yeah.